Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, and transmitting from the beautiful valleys of New Mexico, which is also known as the Land of Enchantment. Today's date, Tuesday, June 17th, 2014. Yeah, I want to make it shorter today compared to last night. I know I did a good 2 hours. And the ones that are listening and sharing it with everyone, I thank you. So I'm going to make it, a little bit more, trim it down a little bit, and just give my intake. And the first thing I'm going to be reading is from RadioNutrition.com. Came out today. It's entitled, Congress Moves to End Raw Milk Prohibition Nationwide. It was written by Jonathan Benson from Real Pharmacy. As it reads, buying and selling raw dairy products across state lines has been outlawed in the U.S. since the late 1980s, when the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, decided that Americans were no longer free to make their own food decisions without government approval. But this senseless and unconstitutional policy of prohibition could soon become history if a bipartisan effort to restore food freedom reaches a breaking point in Congress. The Interstate Milk Freedom Act of 2014, or H.R. 4307, would lift current FDA restrictions that prohibit all interstate trade involving raw milk. Under the new legislation, farmers who produce raw milk and sell it to eager customers looking for a more nutritious alternative to commercial swill would no longer have to worry about being fined or, for instance, or raided at gunpoint by government goons with control issues. According to Campaign for Liberty, the bill, which was introduced by Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky, already has broad support on both sides of the aisle. At least 20 lawmakers, including both Republicans and Democrats, have signed on to the legislation, which seeks to protect America's family-scale farmers and restore freedom of food choice for all Americans. The Milk Freedom Act of 2014 would provide relief to local farmers, small producers, and others who have been harassed, fined, and in some cases even prosecuted for the crime of distributing unpasteurized milk, reads a press release by Representative Massie. This bill will prohibit the federal government from interfering with the interstate traffic of raw milk products. States that recognize raw milk freedom should be free to trade with one another. A companion bill known as the Interstate Milk Freedom Act of 2014 also addresses the issues of raw milk sales and trade between states where raw milk is already legal. The bill, known as H.R. 4308, will provision that these states be allowed to do business with one another without risking prosecution by the federal government. According to the Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, 11 states currently allow retail sales of raw milk, while another 26 states recognize some of the legal sales either directly from the farm or through farm shares. Each of these states would realize newfound freedom as a result of H.R. 4308, and farmers within these states would be able to expand their businesses and increase the availability of a product that bears increasingly high demand. The Interstate Milk Freedom Act of 2014 would prevent the federal government from interfering with trade of unpasteurized natural milk or milk products between states where distribution or sale of such products is already legal, explains a corresponding press release. Together, the two bills would end the government's reign of terror over individuals who choose to produce or purchase foods that may not necessarily be mainstream, but that many people want. The government does not have the authority to govern food purchasing decisions, nor does it have any authoritative right to determine what types of foods people can sell or consume. Today, many people are paying more attention to the food they eat, what it contains, and how it is processed, says Representative Massie. Raw milk, which has been with us for thousands of years, is making a comeback among these discerning customers. Personal choices, as basic as what we feed our families, should not be limited by the federal government. According to RiceFarmer.com, the Firearm legislators are co-sponsoring the Interstate Milk Freedom Act of 2014, which is Paul Braun, Republican from Georgia, Walter Jones, Republican from North Carolina, H. Morgan Griffin, Republican from Virginia, Andy Harris, Republican from Maryland, Raul Labrador, Republican from Idaho, Zoe Lofgren, Democrat from California. Cynthia Lummis, Republican from Wisconsin. Tom McClintock, Republican from California. Mick Mulvaney, Republican from South Carolina. Ted Poe, Republican from Texas. Jared Polis, Democrat from Colorado. Scott Riggle, Republican from Virginia. Steve Stockman, Republican from Texas. Marlon Stutzman, Republican from Indiana. Dana Rocker, Republican from California. Louis Gummert, Republican from Texas. And Scott Perry, Republican from Pennsylvania. Yes, I do support this. I think it is fantastic because it's more on basis of inalienable rights, the 9th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which our natural born rights are inalienable, and what to purchase for ourselves and our families. I do support the raw milk movement because it's been proven there's a lot more nutrition than the pasteurized version of it. And the federal government has no business arresting people for selling raw milk to people. Okay? There's no injured party. It's almost like the war on drugs. Unacceptable. So I do give Representative Massey from Kentucky homage on this topic, and I recommend everyone within the United States to contact their House representative to tell them to co-sponsor this, or you're anti-freedom. Enough said of that. Okay, next one I'm be hitting actually came from, I got this from I think it was Blacklisted News and Disinfo, but this came from the Nexian. Came out Friday, June 13th to be exact. And this is entitled Citrus Growers Manufacture Huge Amounts of DMT. It may surprise you to learn, which is written by, by Morris Crowley. It may surprise you to learn that common citrus trees like oranges and lemons are actually Schedule 1 substances, in the same legal category as heroin. I know it sounds absurd, but it is absolutely true. Recent analysis published in the Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry, several estimates around 2013, found that several citrus plants, including lemons and oranges, contain NN diethyltryptamine, DMT, hopefully I pronounced that correct, and 5-hydroxin and ditryptamine, okay, or bafutini. Okay, I'm just hopefully I pronounced those words correctly. If you could do it, you could send it to me on your audio on my other pages. That'd be great. But thanks for your patience. Both of these compounds are powerful hallucinogens and are designated as Schedule 1 substances under the Federal Controlled Substances Act in the United States. Under that same law, any material, any quantity of a Schedule 1 drug is itself legally equivalent to that drug. The upshot of this is that domestic citrus producers are in fact operating a massive drug manufacturing enterprise, legally speaking, and the scale of this manufacture is not trivial. Let's estimate 150 trees per acre and conservatively suppose that each tree contains 1 kilogram of leaves. Then, in the state of Florida alone, where approximately 550,000 acres are under cultivation, the crop will contain somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 kilograms of bafutini. Roughly 5 million doses, and 5 kilograms of DMT, roughly 150,000 doses. But that's not all. Since the entire mass of any material containing these substances is legally equivalent to the pure substance, the entire biomass of the groves would be treated as pure DMT or pure bafutini. Bafutini. Okay, that's how you pronounce it. Sorry about that. If the growers were charged with manufacturing a controlled substance. You might wonder why I'm characterizing an entire branch of agriculture as a massive drug manufacturing operation. That characterization, however, is not mine. Under federal law, they are mass drug manufacturing operation. I am merely drawing attention to the issue. Regardless of how you feel about the war on drugs, this issue should cause you serious concern. The Controlled Substance Act is written in a way that makes all sorts of mundane materials illegal. It's not just orange trees. Depending on where you live, there is a reasonable chance that the grass on your lawn contains Schedule 1 substances. In fact, so many materials contain detectable quantities of controlled substances that nearly everyone is breaking the law all the time. Ironically, the best defense is to remain assiduously ignorant. The Controlled Substance Act defines crimes of intent. That means that as long as you are not aware that orange trees or certain grasses or many common pens contain controlled substances, then you cannot be guilty of intending to possess, manufacture, or distribute those controlled substances. Once you take the effort to become informed about the ubiquity of controlled substances in the world around you, it becomes nearly impossible to avoid crossing the line into criminal behavior. Hey, that was a good one by Mr. Crowley there. And hey, how I look at it, you get it's like more crimes against by nature. Come on, give me a break. But it's pretty cool little article. I'm glad I shared it with everyone there on my show for my show. So hey, just do a little more homework and share this to everyone and get a good chuckle, especially if you're a juror or a grand juror. If you hear garbage like this, call these people out, laugh at them, and if you're in a jury trial for something like this, just say, not guilty, no victim, no crime. Alright? Okay, cool. Well, next step here. By Mice Daily, okay, the Ludwig von Mises Institute. And this was written by D.W. McKenzie, which came out actually yesterday. And it says here, the data is clear. Free markets reduce poverty. And as it reads, some Catholic clergy have once again denounced supporters of laissez-faire capitalism. Cardinal Oscar Rodriguez Maradiga claims that the free market economy is a new idol which creates inequality, excludes the poor, and that this economy kills. Cardinal Maradiga does not speak alone. He quoted Pope Francis in his recent remarks and claimed that since the Pope grew up in Argentina, he has a profound knowledge of the life of the poor. I have no doubt that Pope Francis has seen many poor people in his own eyes, but our comprehension of the root causes of poverty requires both data and economic conditions and theoretical knowledge of economic freedoms. What does rational analysis of evidence tell us about global poverty? It is an obvious fact that severe poverty has disappeared in most of the industrialized countries. Nations like the US, UK, Switzerland, and Japan, industrialized within, were the predominantly laissez-faire free market conditions. Even the so-called social democracies like Sweden and Germany developed a free market condition and adopted extensive state welfare and regulatory programs only after achieving high levels of economic development and industrialization. World Bank data shows that there is equality, but this inequality is between free market nations and crony capitalist and socialistic nations. And we can go right here about this nice little scale here, little layout, and talk about building labor, skilled workers, industrial workers, engineers, and they have nominal wage, real food wage, and so forth. And what we can look at here with building labor for the nominal wage, all right, we got New York. Ooh, hold on here. Yeah, 16.6. Okay. But, yeah, like I said, this is a nice little readout here. It tells you everything about the wages and so forth. It's pretty interesting stuff. how like New York, London, Beijing, Delhi, and Nairobi, which is in Kenya, their wages are a lot different from New York's and London's and so forth, and the rich poor ratio, income ratio, 20.4 is a good example. But something to really check out. I'm not going to go through all those details. I'll put the link up on my Spreaker page, and you can see it from there. And I'll go further down. The idea that domestic laissez-faire causes poverty is unfounded. It is a historical fact that India, China, and Kenya never tried capitalism, so this system was never given the chance to work. Furthermore, China and India have realized some progress in abating poverty since they moved in the direction of capitalism. Of course, China and India adopted regulated crony capitalism, but this is still better than their old socialist system. One could argue that global capitalism allows a few people in some nations to exploit the masses of other nations. Marxists have attempted to make this case since Lenin. Lenin revised Marx because even in his day, it had become obvious that Marx's prediction that capitalists would exploit domestic workers was refuted by evidence. We now know that Lenin's attempt to blame poverty on global market is wrong. As previously mentioned, economic conditions in China and India improved after switching from socialism to crony capitalism. China and India also have expanded trade in global market. There have been significant improvements in living conditions around the world over the past 30 years. Largest improvement in the poorest nations took place during the wave of globalization that took place 20 years ago after the fall of the USSR. The collapse of the Soviet Union opened the door to unprecedented globalization of industry. What does real data tell us about poverty during this period? Per capita GDP rose dramatically. And just like see here, in 82, there's like from on the world, like low income, from 82, 428.33, now is to 1,069.4. Middle income from 82, 1,259.8. And it went to 2012, 7275.3. High income, 10,006. 2012, 38,372. I'm just you can look at this data itself. I'm just going from those particular days. So on high income, OECD, 10,087,872 to 2012, 40,571. The world, 3,233.4 to 12,260. So, like I said, it's just the per capita GDP gap, for open market. So, I'll go a little further. 30 years ago, 50% of the people in the poorer nations of the world lived in extreme poverty. In 2012, 21% of people in the poorer nations of the world live in extreme poverty. Development of global markets has increasingly lessened poverty around the world. This is a very important fact. Movement from being the lowest global income bracket to lower middle income to middle income means moving range average life expectancy in the late 40s to life expectancy to 50 or 60 respectively. Cardinal Maradigia is wrong. This economy does not kill. It has extended the lives of the poorest people in the world. The superficial examination of the world today reveals that there is poverty, that this poverty has real consequences for living standards and life expectancies, and that we do have global markets and capitalism in most of the world. Careful analysis show that capitalism has truly lessened the severity of poverty over the time, and that the main problem with capitalism is most nation is that it has too many elements of government regulation and cronyism. Pope Francis and Cardinal Maradiga have good intentions, but their anti-capitalistic beliefs are unfounded. Their campaign against global capitalism endangered the poorest people in the world. I think when it has a point about government regulations and cronyism, which is like mercantilism and neo-mercantilism, which I have addressed it in that one podcast pertaining to, what's that thing? The Tesla vehicle. Because I do support open free open free market. Okay, if now we've got all this technology, it's so much great products out there that even bureaucrats and big business don't want us to know. I tell you one thing: if we open up the market a lot more to fulfill what's his name, Tesla's legacy, the price of oil and all that will plummet, man. It will just go down completely because supply and demand. When you have mercantilism, government regulations, it can bring it up. Okay, including corporate farming, because you have like a lot of these small farmers are getting shut out because they're getting harassed by the FDA or the USDA. Okay, government's trying to harass these small businesses, and but it's okay for these big hotshots like Tyson Food to do what the hell they want. I find it pretty unacceptable. Open up the damn markets across the board, and I'll tell you one thing: in a period of time, these prices will plummet. You know, and because competition is healthy, it gets people thinking, and what can they bring up next? So you know what? I do support open free market. It does reduce. I believe it does reduce property. And a good example is Mexico, because they have a lot of new mercantilism and corporatism, and even globalism. Because a lot of that, all those areas, that country they have so much resources. If they let the people open up the markets, I'll tell you one thing: there'll be one self-contained country. That's all I like to see. All right. Well, next step here. This is from Blacklisted News. I got that from Twitter, from my Twitter account, and this is from the AFP. It's entitled "SunTrust Banks Pay Nearly $1 billion for Mortgage Abuse." And as it reads, SunTrust Banks agreed Tuesday to pay $968 million to settle U.S. charges rooted in the 2008 financial crisis that has mislabeled huge numbers of defective mortgages and as quality loans abusing borrowers. The Atlanta, Georgia-based SunTrust deal with 3 federal government agencies and 4 United States included $500 million in relief to consumers who have suffered from this practice between 2006 and 2012. Another $418 million in cash goes to resolving potential charges against the banks for originating and underwriting loans that claimed needed to the standards of the Federal Housing Administration, FHA. The balance, $50 million, will mostly distribute to borrowers and homeowners who suffer from alleged mortgage abuse. SunTrust admitted to the poor and abusive practice in the settlement, but avoided criminal charges. SunTrust's irresponsible FHA lending practices caused grievous harm to homeowners and the housing market, as well as wasting hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer funds, said Justice Department Assistant Attorney General Stuart Dallaire. This agreement with SunTrust is another step forward in the Obama administration's ongoing effort to hold mortgage lenders accountable, said Helen Kanvosky, acting deputy secretary at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, another party to the settlement. SunTrust ranked 18th in the country among banks by assets of $175 billion at the end of 2013, was a leading mortgage leader in the early 2000s. Chairman and Chief Executive William Rogers said the bank is pleased to have resolved these legacy mortgage matters. The last major institution we are addressing issues related to mortgage matters stemming from financial crisis and recession period. I gotta say this: we need to bring back the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. We can throw these bastards in jail. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not a big fan of these big banks, corporate banks. I find them pretty damn disgusting, with all due respect. And I always recommend try to go to one with a state-related, like state-proud banks and credit unions. They might be perfect, but they could be a lot better than this debacle with SunTrust. If we go bring back the Glass-Steagall Act, I'll tell you one thing: how many people would be going to jail for this? It'll be a whole lot. I'll try to. I'm going to do an attempt to put that on in the Glass-Steagall Act for this article as one of my footnotes. So, and we could just take it from there, okay? Alright, man. Next one here. We got on Blacklisted News. Actually came from the Raw Story. Thank you, Doug. It's entitled, Hillary Clinton, we can let gun-loving minority terrorize the rest. We can't let gun-loving minority terrorize the rest of the country. And as it reads, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton delivered an apparent rebuke to conservative gun advocates during an appearance on CNN, which I call it the Comedy News Network, on Tuesday, said she would support a ban on assault weapons. We cannot let a minority of people, and that's what it is, a minority of people, hold a viewpoint that terrorizes the majority of people, Clinton said in response to a question during the town hall forum. We're about the fifth person the past few weeks, parents, another teacher, interested citizens, who have said something similar to me, that Clinton, the presumptive front-runner for the Democratic presidential nomination as she entered the 2016 campaign, also alluded to widespread national support for more comprehensive gun legislation shortly following December 2012 mass shooting at Sandy Hook in Connecticut. Yes, we need to thrash this out on the political realm, she said, but the vast majority of Americans, even law-abiding gun owners, want background checks that work. Well, you never asked me that, honey, or Jezebel. Information that is shared immediately and awareness that we're going to have to do a better job protecting the vast majority of our citizens, including our children, from that very, very small group. And I'll put the video on here and you need to hear it for yourself. Okay, let's check this out.
Hi, my name is Gail Santa Maria. I'm from Maryland. I'm a teacher. My question is about guns. I'm very concerned about the proliferation of guns in America, especially as it pertains to school shootings. Right. Do you think that reinstating the ban on assault weapons and banning high-capacity magazines would do any good?
Yes, I do. I do.
Good.
You know, First of all, I think as a teacher or really any parent, what's been happening with these school shootings should cause everybody to just think hard. We make hard choices and we balance competing values all the time. And I was disappointed that the Congress did not pass universal background checks after the horrors of the shootings at Sandy Hook, and now we've had more in the time since. And I don't think any parent, any person should have to fear about their child going to school or going to college because someone, for whatever reasons, psychological, emotional, political, ideological, whatever it means, could possibly enter that school property with an automatic weapon and murder innocent children, students, teachers. I'm well aware that this is a hot political subject. And again, I will speak out no matter what role I find myself in. But I believe that we need a more thoughtful conversation. We cannot let a minority of people, and that's what it is. It is a minority of people hold a viewpoint that terrorizes the majority of people. And you are about the fifth person in the last weeks, parents, another teacher, just interested citizens who have said something similar to me. So my view is that, yes, we need to thrash this out in the political realm. But the vast majority of Americans, even law-abiding gun owners, people who want background checks that work, information that is shared immediately, and an awareness that we're going to have to do a better job protecting the vast majority of our citizens, including our children, from that very, very, very small group that is unfortunately prone to violence, and now with automatic weapons can wreak so much more violence than they ever could have before.
Nay, nay. That's all I have to say, my friends. Nay, nay. I have to disagree with Mrs. Clinton on this, because the way she expressed her rhetoric about they have to protect them, not honorable people. The problem is she has forgotten about all these school shootings in the colleges. You can say Sandy Hook, but there's a lot of holes in the case, allegedly. What do they have in common? They occurred in firearm-free zones. That's the problem. I'm not here to play Rambo or be some macho guy that goes around saying I'm paranoid. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the first line of defense from these particular crackpots, is individuals like you and I, not the police, on an overall basis. And within a lot of areas within the United States, technically, the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual, because they have sovereign immunity language in the state statutes around the country. And I did put those up in the past, and I'll do the attempt on adding that in there as well, just to give you guys all a heads up. And two, how come they're not calling out Big Pharma? She's supposed to be some great expert. Oh, well, she was the first lady during the Clinton administration. I never really liked her, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't matter what party she's in. But I observed a lot of her agendas, and I was never really pleased or fascinated by her. And, hey, she was a warmongering chicken hawk anyway. She supports attacking Iraq when she was senator of New York. So that's like the whole assault rifle ban is still illegal, null and void. Not just the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, but the Ninth. Human nature or inalienable rights, natural born rights. And the question is this: I do very feel disgusted with what's going on with the school shootings and so forth, and shootings in all those other areas, like that happened in Portland with the mall and so forth. A lot of them occurred in firearm-free zones, and that's a fact. And what's interesting here is this thing from got from the JPFO's website. There's this thing about underlying data, which is actually came from actionamerica.org, and it says here, since 2014, since gun deaths since January 1st, accidental gun deaths 295, gun homicides 5,882, gun suicides 7,762. Compare with falling deaths. Screw that. They talk about poison deaths, comparing other deaths, which is a lot more higher. But guns used in self-defense from this day to this day, 1,115,479. So what odds do you prefer, my friends? I'm not supporting violent firearm-related crimes. They deserve harsher sentences. If someone goes in there and plays a terrorist act on going on a shooting spree, that person needs to be taken out. Period. It's like a rabid dog. If the dog has rabies, what do you gotta do? Terminate it. Sad to say, but that's part of society, human nature. And interesting here, because this is interesting. It's talking about school shootings. I'm gonna check this out here, and it says, it's from the JPFO's website, is there really an epidemic of mass shootings? And let's gonna take a little read here. This was from June 9th. Okay. I'll add this to the link as well. I'm going to read this. What the hell? Why not? I'm going to read this, and hopefully it will go in. This is from American Spectator. So we just continue with this thing on the mass shootings. And it says, the recent, this is hold on here. I'll find out who is this written by. Josh Blackman. It happened on June 9th of this year. And as it reads, I'll add this to the link as well. The recent tragedy at the University of California, Santa Barbara to be exact, has reignited debate over fraught issues of gun control, mental health, and school safety. The loss of any life is, of course, tragic. Parents, community members, and policymakers are right to ask questions about how each attack may have been prevented. But some perspective is in order. Type mass shootings and common into a search engine and you'll get all sorts of breathless commentaries that might lead one to believe there are Americans face a genuine epidemic of shooting rampages. A few headlines. Fox, mass shooting on campus are getting more common and more deadly. Think progress. Mass shootings are becoming more frequent. NPR, study, mass shootings are on the rise across the U.S. Washington Post, why are mass shootings becoming more common? The truth simply is that mass shootings, as horrible and nightmarish as they are very rare, constitute a tiny sliver of homicides and are not becoming more frequent. The debate over on how to respond to gun violence is controversial and unlikely to yield solutions that will satisfy everyone. That said, any efforts that intend to strike a balance between safety, self-defense, and civil liberties must take account of these inconvenient truths. Homicide in America is far more common than it ought to be, but mass shootings, defined as 4 or more murders in the same incident, constitute a minuscule share of the total, as I discussed in Shooting Cycle in the most recent edition of the Connecticut Law Review. Bureau of Justice Statistics reported that from 2002 to 2011, 95% of total homicide instances involved a single fatality, 4% involved 2 victims, 0.6% involved 3 victims, and only 0.02% involved 4 or more victims. Another study performed between 1976 and 2005 yields similar results that less than 1% of all murders in the United States involve 4 or more victims. In other words, bottom line is that out of 10,000 instances of homicide, roughly 2 are mass killings. Further contrary to what the zeitgeist may suggest, mass shootings are not on the rise. Prominent criminologist James Allen Fox has found no upward trend in mass killings since the 70s. Take campus statistics as an example. Overall, in this country, there's an average of 20 murders across campuses in any given year. Fox told CNN, and roughly 99% of these reported homicides were not mass shootings. Compared that over 1,000 suicides and about 1,500 deaths from binge drinking and drug overdoses. Mass shootings on college campuses lag far, far behind many much more prevalent social and mental health problems. The rare nature of these instances also holds true for safety in K-12 schools, which garnered a significant amount of attention in the wake of the tragedies in Columbine and Newton. According to 2 reports by the Center for Disease Control, the probability of a child dying in school in any given year from homicide or suicide was less than 1 in 1 million between 92 and 94, and slightly greater than 1 in 2 million between 94 and 1999. If mass shootings are rare, constitute a tiny percentage of gun homicides, and have not been occurring more frequently, Why are they so salient today? Behavioral economists have identified several important heuristics that explain how our minds work. First, availability heuristic leads people to overweight the prominence of events that are easily retrievable from our memories. Mass shootings that receive widespread media attention dominate our collective consciousness, and therefore we perceive them as occurring more frequently than they actually do. Second, people tend to weigh the risk of unfamiliar, unknown events more heavily than those with which they are familiar. This is referred to as the unfamiliar event heuristic. For example, a person may perceive that risk of being killed in a thankfully unfamiliar tragedy like a mass shooting at a college campus is greater than the risk of, say, accidentally drowning in a pool, which is surprisingly common and claimed 3,500 lives per year. Third, people with pre-existing views of cultural predispositions on issues such as gun control are more likely to see tragic events through a lens that gratifies their own beliefs. Yale law professor Dan Kahan explains that those who already feel revulsion and disgust towards guns are likely to fixate on shootings rather than other types of death, such as accidental drownings, and see the losses as a reason to strengthen gun regulations. Conversely, a person who is predisposed to favor gun rights is likely to minimize shootings and focus on roles of firearms play in preventing crime. This confirmation bias explains that visceral reactions that many on the left and right display following mass shootings. Fourth, because of in-group bias, people tend to focus on victims who are like them. Think about the locales of shootings that gain wall-to-wall TV coverage: schools, local campuses, movie theaters, supermarkets. Instances of the proverbial wrong side of town, in contrast, do not warrant as much notice. For example, 46 people were shot in Chicago during a 72-hour period around the 6-month anniversary of Sandy Hook. Yet this garnered very little attention, according to the Los Angeles Times Homicide Report. In the first 5 months of 2014, there have already been 193 homicides in the city of Angels, which is known as Los Angeles. No number of mass shootings can ever be deemed acceptable, and the public may legitimately ask whether stronger rules on background checks on involuntary mental commitment might avert future tragedy, but mass shootings occupy a disproportionately large scale of discussion surrounding gun control, and the debate should turn on facts, not misconceptions. Yeah, so that's definitely going to add that to the list here. But yeah, like I said, that's for that whole thing with Hillary Clinton. So you can do all these background checks, you can do all these bans. Crime like this is always going to be an issue. And that's why I always support human nature. Self-defense is the righteous thing to do. That's why I have to disagree with Hillary Clinton on those topics. And people that applaud it, it's comical anyway. That's what I call CNN the Comedy News Network. That's how I see it. Their ratings are plummeting. So, well, I'm going to add those 2 footnotes to that particular article from Hillary Clinton. And that's really it, my friends. I was going to make it a little bit shorter than I did last night because I had to do a lot of makeup time. And hopefully I'll get the chance of doing this again. And I thank everyone for having the opportunity to listen to the show. And you could hit me with your correspondences and information. Don't matter. On my Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I'm on World Truth again, worldtruth.org. RTR, YouTube, Tumblr, list goes on, but you can find Loki Lux III. So, and that's it for now. And one more time, thank you for checking in. And my closing quote, like I always love to say, as always, demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate societies. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.